how do we accelerate your progress with what we're going to call shaving ounces? But I think what we're going to actually deliver is how do we shave pounds?
Yeah.
Right?
As crazy as it's going to sound, this winds up boiling down to some of the tiniest little minute things. Learning how to use what Mother Nature gave us as effectively as possible. Our eyes, our ears, our mouth, our heart. We can spend all day long trying to analyze clients and shrink that trust gap, but at the end of the day, we've got to start here. We've got to start internally. What can we do ahead of time? What can we do as we're getting to meet the client and get to know the client that can help us ahead of time understand how they process information? Again, shrink that trust gap, accelerate it. Now, what we're not talking about is you becoming somebody you're not. What we are talking about is understanding that people operate in different social styles. They interact with people differently. They assert themselves differently. They're also motivated by different things. Some people are motivated based on this, right? What they get here in the heart, what they feel. Other people are motivated based on what they think. Task-oriented people. So what we're going to introduce today is a very simple process that helps us identify one of the 4 primary social styles that this person is coming in with and how we can become adaptable, versatile, to shrink that trust gap so that we can appeal to their social style that much quicker. So I'm going to show you how this works kind of academically, and then while we're talking about this, I'm going to also give you the way I cheat, right? Because I have to shortcut this. I have to make it in ways that I can remember stuff, right? Everything I do is in acronyms so that I can remember things. So the first thing I'm going to look at with a person, and in my mind it's on this x-axis. Are they what's called tell-assertive or ask-assertive? So the x-axis is what we call our assertiveness line. So what's the difference between ask-assertive and tell-assertive? Someone who's tell-assertive is going to tell you how they feel. They have no problem doing it. Someone who's ask-assertive is more likely going to ask you how you feel or what you think about. Now, the way I cheat with this in my own head is kind of like the tortoise and the hare. Fast talker or slow talker? Kind of intense and in your face, or a little bit more kind of back here and inquisitive? So I asked that question to myself first, fast or slow? Is this somebody who moves quickly, or is this somebody who's a little bit more methodical, a little bit more purposeful with each movement, each word? Okay, once I've got that, then I get to go to my y-axis. Now this is what we call the responsiveness axis. So this will tell us how people actually respond to this stimulus. Does this person respond to people or tasks? What do I mean by that? This is where I wish I was Jim Gebhardt tall. Warm or cool? A hugger or a handshaker? That's another way I think about it. So, ask or tell, fast or slow, warm or cool. And you know the difference with people who are that warm, immediately connected with you versus the handshake and the bullet points. Task-oriented versus people-oriented. And there's no judgment here. It's just really trying to understand the difference between people. Now, once we can answer these 2 questions between how they assert themselves and how they respond to external stimulus, now we can start getting a picture of who these people are. If somebody's warm, if somebody's a people person, but they're a fast talker, this is what we call our expressive. But you know, we also have tele-assertive people in our business who are a little bit cooler, a little bit more direct, a little bit more to the point. We call these people drivers. When we get to the warm people who tend to be a little bit more ask assertive, these are what we call amiables. And when we get to our ask assertive people who are a little bit cooler, these are where we get to our analytics. Now, what's so important about understanding this is trying to figure out, where am I on this?
Know thyself.
Where am I?
Because once you know yourself on here, who do you think it's going to be the fastest connection with?
Similar people.
The mirror image to you.
Yeah.
Those are the no-brainers. Those are the ones where it just immediately is click, because you're both expressives or you're both drivers. It just, that happens in seconds.
So what we're going to find, and we're going to go through each one of these, is, for example, me as an expressive, Jim as an expressive, we're going to have an easier time being adaptable this way. So expressives can appeal to drivers. Drivers, they're task-oriented. They want bullet points. They want the bottom line, and they're motivated by having control and choice. So if you know you have a driver as a client, you have to ultimately understand what their ultimate motivation is.
Choice and control.
They want choice and control. You have to give it to them. Concise, to the point, based on tasks. And you have to tell them what to do. But give them choice and control of how to do it. The expressive. This dude, all he cares about is recognition. That's the number one motivator behind an expressive. So when we have a client that we know is expressive, what do they need to hear from us?
Compliments.
You're okay.
You're doing good.
You're doing fine. You're on track.
Even stronger. Great job. You're on track because you did a great job. The amiable is all about security and relationship. This is the person who needs to hear, go ahead and say it,
You're okay.
you're okay. You're okay, and I love you. You're okay, and I am part of your family.
And we're going to take great care of you.
Yeah.
And your family. Right? They're all about relationship.
Drivers and analytics, we can go this way and be fairly adaptable pretty easily. It's when we go this way that we have problems. So amiables and drivers are toxic. Expressives and analytics together are toxic when we're not aware. It's only toxicity when we're not aware. Analytics.
Can we pick on these people for a second?
What do you think they would be motivated by? They want to be right. Analytics are completely motivated with being right. They do not like being wrong. Where this becomes cool is when we screw up. How do we recognize when we've lost somebody? How do we recognize when our social style has actually pushed them away? And then how do I bring them back? This driver, when you lose him or her, they become autocratic. They become very demanding. When you sense this from your driver, you know they don't feel like they have that. Autocracy is how we get that control back when we don't give it to them. When you lose the expressive, they're just going to challenge everything you have to say, to the point that they'll even get in your face. These two, pretty easy to figure out. Because they're tele-assertive, these expressions tend to be outward, right? Fight or flight mode, this tends to be an expression of fight mode with expressives and drivers. These guys are tougher because we don't know. And I don't spell this right. ACQ. The amiable is the ultimate acquiescer. That's how amiables withdraw. It's as simple and subtle as a body language move. That's what's hard about these people, is that when they withdraw from you, it's body language based. It's not verbal. It's nonverbal. The analytic is going to cross his arms. Unless you become that one source in their life that reinforces their very basic need, which is to be right. But in the long run, you're going to naturally attract this way, and you're going to naturally repel this way. And you just have to be aware. With all of this up here, we can't even take one step further until we go in here and we figure out where we're at. So we've been talking about, and we're going to talk more about, the 3 most important relationships in your life. And if we can get those 3 relationships firing on all cylinders, how unstoppable you're going to be. And the 3 relationships we're talking about are the relationships with yourself, your people, and your money. Now the problem is that our world has been backwards on those 3 relationships for years. Well, if I make enough money, I can take care of my people, which will make me feel good about myself. And I wrote a book on that and how that doesn't work, because I tried that way and it left me feeling completely empty inside. When we start with ourselves, know thyself, and we get completely confident, and this is just one aspect of who we are and how we behave and what our predetermined kind of social style is going to look like. Once we know thyself, then we can become fully open to our people, completely present to our people, completely able to offer them the greatest gift in the world, which is empathy. How do we take all of this stuff and start implementing it into our business? Because it really takes somewhere around 60 to 70 days of consciously working on something before it becomes an everyday intuitive habit. For those that are really interested in embracing this idea of eliminating the trust gap, accelerating the introduction to new client, which allows you to really go through this transition of being an asset manager and becoming a real wealth manager, you have to figure out how to eliminate that trust gap quicker.